class. We want to discuss extension as an educational process. That's the topic for this particular slide that we're going through now. Extension educational process. The target for everyone who is listening is to ensure that at the end of this session, you are able to identify the steps in extension education. Identify those steps. I think there are about 5 clear steps that you will need to know regarding extension education. And then, having identified those steps, it's also expected that you should be able to discuss the steps in extension education. We know it's one thing to identify things, be able to list things, and then another thing to go beyond listing. So we expect that you advance to that point of discussing apart from identifying the steps. So we would be looking at these steps because an effective extension program usually involves 5 essential and interrelated steps. The concept of extension education is intended only to clarify the steps necessary in carrying out a planned effort. It does not simply just mean for us to identify these steps, but we also expect that we should highlight the objectives of extension education process. So it does not only imply that these steps are definitely separate from each other. Experience shows that planning, teaching, and evaluation takes place continuously in various degrees throughout all phases of extension activity. So let's look at these steps. Of course, we've said earlier on, they are not unbonded. Sometimes they may be connected to each other. The first step that we want to look at in extension education is the step which speaks of collection of facts and analysis of the situation. This is very important. You don't educate out of ignorance, but you educate the ignorant. So on your own part, as one who is bringing education, as one who is coming to teach, it's expected that you first of all collect facts, know the situation of things, know the purpose for which education may be necessary for the people, know the situation the people are into, facts about the people, about their enterprise, about their economic, about their social, cultural, physical, and technological environment in which they live and work. Now, these may be obtained by appropriate survey. You may go on field observation. You may use questionnaires to collect your facts. Possibly, you can also decide to use focus group discussion to get your task, get your facts. You can even use key informants, pick up major persons who would be able to serve as good guides in the process. So the first step consists of collection of facts, and then you analyze the situation. These may be obtained, as we said earlier on, through many processes. The responses obtained are to be analyzed with the local people to identify the problems and resources available in the community. Don't just collect the facts and then try to interpret them solely by yourself. No. For example, after a survey in a community and analysis of the data, the problem was identified as low income of the farm family from their crop production enterprise. So when you collect facts, you may end up identifying that the problem may be prevalence of crop diseases. You may find out that the problem may be low linkage to market. So whatever that you need to solve, you must get at those issues you need to solve through collection of facts and analysis of the situation. The next step that will be important for extension education is the second step, which has to do with deciding on realistic objectives which may be accomplished by the community. A limited number of objectives should be selected by involving the local people. The objectives should be specific and clearly stated, and on completion should bring satisfaction to the community. Objectives should state the behavioral changes in people as well as the economic and social outcomes desires. Let's take, for instance, the problem that we identified earlier on regarding low income of the farmers. Now, if you do a deeper investigation, a deeper probe into the issue of low income among farmers, you may now find out that it could be due to low yield of crops, which may be attributed to the use of local seeds or low yield potentials, or maybe because they failed to apply fertilizer or apply very little, or because of maybe incidents of climate change variables like flood, drought, and the rest of them. By taking into consideration the capacity and competence of the people, it's very important here that you now emerge with a solution. First of all, when the community are carried along, now they can help you to assess available resources, help you to design the objectives to be set up to increase crop yield, by a certain percentage, and then it will help to also help you to be relevant to the people. It is estimated that the increased yield shall bring increased income, which shall enhance the family welfare, support family nutrition, support food security among households. Move to the third step now. The third step here is teaching, which involves choosing what should be taught, and how the people should be taught, the methods to be used, the aids to be used. Here, teaching requires selecting research findings of economic and practical importance relevant to the community, and selection and combination of appropriate teaching methods and aids. Very important. Very, very important. You may select a teaching method and then it's not appropriate. That becomes difficult to communicate with the people. Result demonstration, method demonstration, farming training, they are all part of what should constitute your teaching aids. They should constitute your approach, your technique to what you want to teach. Let's not also forget that we can use farmers training and farm publications to ensure appropriate teaching. We can use tape recorded and slides like what we are doing here now. They could be selected as teaching aids. The first step that we want to look at now, which is the first step, is evaluating the teaching. It's good that you look at what you have done and evaluate what you've done. Evaluate the teaching, and then with the aim of determining the extent to which the objectives have been reached. To evaluate the result of an educational program objectively, it is desirable to conduct a resurvey. You remember you did a survey to arrive at their problems. It's important that you return and do a resurvey. You do a resurvey. The evidence of change behavior should be collected, which shall not only provide a measure of success, but shall also indicate the deficiencies, if any. So we look at that same example that we are using when it comes to low income. The resurvey after the fixed period of time indicated that the crop yield had increased by 10%. Now, given that our target is 20%, it means there was a yield gap of 10%, in line with our set objective of 20%. Now, the resurvey should also indicate what the reasons were for the yield gap. Maybe there may be deficiency in what they were taught, maybe lack of proper water management, maybe the farmers could not apply the fertilizer and appropriately, possibly farm chemicals were not appropriately used, or even lack of funds. So you will need to do an evaluation of what you've taught them. Extension process insists that we do an evaluation of what we've taught. And then the fifth step is reconsideration of the entire extension education program on the light of the result of the evaluation. By the time you're done with the evaluation and you look at the outcome of your evaluation, then it may become necessary for you to reconsider the entire process, reconsider the entire program. The problems identified in the process of evaluation may become the starting point of the next phase of the extension educational program. Remember, we said that agricultural extension is an ongoing process. Extension does not end. Extension does not cease. Until the world ends, extension will continue because we'll keep going for improvement, we'll keep going for advancement. So when you do your fourth step of evaluation, and then the fifth step will entail you reconsider the entire educational program and then see what you need to do. The problems identified in the process of evaluation may become the starting point of the next phase of the extension program. It's important that we reinvest. New problems have developed or new situations have arisen. The best thing to do is to keep handling that existing problem until it is perfectly solved. After evaluation will be very, very important. So we return now to the objectives. After having done your re-evaluation, it's good that you set up your objectives. Usually, the fundamental objective of extension process is the development of the people. In other words, what we're looking at is how do we improve the standard of living of the people? How do we support the people, the rural people? How do we support the rural community economically, socially, culturally, by means of their education? That's the fundamental objective. Development of the rural people, socially, economically, culturally, by means of education. Example is to increase social income status and standard of living of Nigerians or of Igbo people or of Abakaliki people or of Ebonyi people or of Igbo people. Just have your objectives clearly. Then the general objectives of extension, I want you to listen to this very clearly, please, so that as you go to the field, it guides you. The general objectives of the extension are to assist people to discover and analyze their problems, their felt and unfelt needs, to develop leadership among people and help them in organizing groups to solve their problems, to discriminate information based on research or practical experience in such a manner that people would accept it and put it into consideration, or not just consideration, but into actual practice. Next is to keep the research workers informed of the people's problems from time to time so that they may offer solutions based on necessary research. And then finally, to assist people in mobilizing on and then utilizing the resources which they have and which they need from outside. We may decide to increase the production of paddy rice in Ikwo. Now, by doing that, these 5 objectives should be clearly targeted. Thank you again for your time. We'll continue in the next session.